Hi, this is Clint May, and I want to tell you about one of the most exciting things I did as a children's pastor over 13 years ago. I was started at a church, Woodwood Baptist Church, in 2002, and we were doing, VBS was already in place. I started in May of that year, and I had a director, and I was amazed. I went in, we had a waterfall coming out of the baptismal. We completely decorated the choir loft like rocks, like a ridge, and then we pulled all the plants from the church, all the potted plants in there. And so the whole worship center was designed like an Amazon adventure. And we sang the songs. We had probably 10 rolls of butcher paper, and we covered all the walls of the classroom. The leaders did, the teachers did, not me. But I was a major part of promoting it and being involved. The nice thing having a director, they took on the task, but by the time we started VBS, we were exhausted. And you know how it is. We had a room with 4 overhead projectors. We were drawing up the little clip art that they share with the curriculum you get. And so that first year, we spent thousands of dollars. I won't tell you how much. We were giving gifts away to kids every day, and when they came, the attendance was good, and our decisions were not what I expected. Second year, we did the same thing. I was not, again, being a children's pastor, they had a director in place who did the VBS, and we, again, went overboard. I mean, decked out the host worship center, everything. And after 2 years of doing this at this particular church, I've been on staff at 5 different churches, but after 2 years, I just felt really convicted that we were spending this much money, and yet we were reaching very few children besides the kids in our church. And so I began praying about it, and we'd already had relationships with the schools next door to our church, Bruce Schulke Elementary, and we were in 2 other schools doing good news clubs, after school Bible clubs. And so I prayed about it. Then I went to our staff and I told our pastor, I said, I just really feel that we should take Vacation Bible School off campus to where kids live. And after praying about it and after being drilled for an hour, questioning what would parents think, would families get upset, I told him, I said, I've prayed about it. If the Lord opens the doors, will you agree that this is God's will for us to step out? And so we did. And we got permission from the Fort Worth ISD, and we did what we call Kid Power Camp in the public schools. This is South Hills Elementary in Fort Worth, and you can see on the stage we had kids that led the songs. And this is a fairly decent group, but it was very exciting as we kicked this off because we saw a lot of kids that we'd never seen at our church. As it went on, after this VBS, we just began to evaluate the significance of the impact that we saw, because when we did a celebration at our church, we had about 700 people that showed up. Our whole parking lot was full, and even my pastor said, Clint, I don't even recognize any of these people. And I just said, that's the most important thing that we've done is we've brought people into our church family who've never heard the gospel, have never seen our church, and we connected with them. Well, 2 years later, we were not allowed to go into the schools anymore because of construction. And so we went into the local neighborhoods, to apartment complexes. And this, to me, was the biggest eye-opener because we connected directly with families. Parents were astounded and amazed that we would literally come to them and do Vacation Bible School where their kids lived. And they weren't burdened about having to take their children to a church and back and things like that. But we brought the program to them, and they just were so blessed by it. But we began to see more and more people coming into our church as a result of that. And we did the games, we did everything just like VBS. The difference was when you go off campus, you can't do all the decorating. And so what we came up with was a simple Bible study, simple crafts. We did really simple snacks like cookies and lemonade or punch. And we did fun games, and that was it. But we reached more people. We quadrupled the number of decisions that we had in like 2 years after we went this model versus what we had done in our church in 2 years, and very few people that we impacted. So there's a lot of advantages, and I have 8 advantages of doing this off campus that I want to share with you today. Number one, less work for your volunteers. When you go off campus, you don't have to spend 2 weeks getting ready, decorating classrooms, and making all kinds of different things. Another thing is you spend less money. We used to buy all the inflatable things and all the pop-ups, all the bangs and pops and whistles that you buy with VBS curriculum. We couldn't use it out there because it just wasn't practical, but it made it less. It cost less money to do this, probably a fourth of the cost. 3, families in your community respond in a very positive way. And so it was different when they didn't have to bring their kids to our church, but when we went to where they lived, it was amazing what the Lord did. Do you know that about 70 to 80% of those that live in apartments are unreached or unchurched? And so you're taking the church, the ministry, the gospel right to where those people live. Number 4, more people can be involved at the ministry, at the many sites. So as we begin to expand, when you do VBS at your church, you know how it is. One person leads the songs, one person does the games, one does crafts, and you kind of rotate everybody through. But the joy of doing it at different sites was our kids could lead the songs, and it's kind of funny, the adults didn't want to. But at one time, we had 10 different apartment locations we were working with simultaneously. We had kids lead the songs, we had kids helping out, and students leading songs and doing games, and some of them were teaching the lessons, some were helping and leading crafts, some were doing the snacks and recreation. And so we had more people involved who were actually doing hands-on things rather than rotating through, and they loved it. Our church was so excited about being out in the community. All right? Families can adopt a location. We have families that took on a whole apartment complex, and that's 10 to 15 kids, which is not difficult to do. All right, number 6, less preparation time and more time for ministry outside your church. Instead of spending that week in advance before, this allowed a lot of freedom for when we went out in the community for families to just be able to stay out there longer. And so we weren't exhausted when we started our vacation Bible school off campus, but we had time, and there was a lot more flexibility. When you go off campus, you're not structured to a 6 to 8 schedule. You can say, hey, at 6 o'clock, we're going to come together. We'll play some games with the kids to get kids there. We're going to take the time to go out and knock on doors, and we would teach our people, if you have one kid that shows up and that's all you have, more than likely that child knows where everybody lives. And so take the time to go and knock on the doors of other children and invite them to come. Number 7, more people can be drawn to your church for a celebration event at the climax of the week. And so this was something that was really unique because we were there 4 days. And so we chose on Friday to have a party. And so we rented inflatables like these. And the first time we did this, we had a cookout of hot dogs. What we did first is we did the celebration service. And it was critical that everybody had the same songs. They did the same motions. And so when you came together in the worship center, it was like a big revival, and it was very exciting. And the kids would sing the songs, we'd share the gospel with families, and then we would go out and play. And so we had all the inflatables deflated at the time we were doing the service. And then we came outside. It was amazing. Our whole parking lot was packed with people. Number 8, children and students are able to serve during the event. Again, I'd mentioned before, we released our teenagers and children to lead out at these events, and it gave them a missions mindset. This picture shows that we had children on the stage leading the songs along with an adult, and it was just amazing that they felt a part of it. They knew the songs, but they felt like they were on mission as well. All right, and then we had students, we had preteens who taught lessons, who shared the gospel, and it was quite an amazing venture outside of our church. All right, after going through that, how do you get everybody ready to begin this, okay? All right, here's some things you can do. Number 1, keep it simple. Again, we did songs, we did the Bible study, we did memory verses, we did games, we did crafts, and we have them snacks. And that was pretty much it. Secondly, we pre-packaged the crafts. We put them in little packets. Let me give you a little idea here. We would get cut out the John 3:16. It would be on a quarter sheet of 8.5 by 11 paper. You cut those out, which was real simple, and then you could buy these little popsicle sticks, the large ones, and stickers at Walmart or Michael's or Hobby Lobby, and we'd make these little crafts like this. We did power bands, we did power necklaces, simple crafts, and not really expensive to do. And the kids loved it. But the thing is, they took it home and they had that message on their door of their bedroom or in their house, and mom and dad saw that as well. All right, number 3, have a tote for each site with all the supplies in them, and this is something that's worth the investment. We would put the supplies in a tote, and they would pick them up from the church, and they would have their crafts. Everything was in there. And when you simplify, really all you had to have was pens, pencils, maybe crayons, and some things like that if they were going to do some coloring. But it didn't take a lot. But we required that the leaders bring the tote back to the church every day, because the first night, when we first kicked this off, the first time, one of our leaders got stuck in traffic with a tote in the back of their car and didn't make it to their site on time. And so we made it mandatory to bring them back, and then we could stock them at the church. All right, number 4. If you're able, set up an online registration. Most churches have ACS or some online registration. This just makes it easier. If you don't, or if you want to do it differently, what we did also is we had registration to sites, and then we had a team of folks back at the church who were like in our conference room with they brought their laptops, and they were online, and they were putting in the information as the registration forms came in. So just keep it simple. Again, make it fun, and spend more time with people out in the community. With the money you save, you can purchase T-shirts, and this is a walking advertisement for your church. People love T-shirts. If you can afford it, you can give T-shirts to the kids at the sites. We also purchased Bibles for kids and gave everybody that came to our Bible study, Kid Power Camp, a free Bible just for coming, and then for those kids who accepted Christ. All right. Number 6, have a follow-up plan in place up front. This is important to think about this before you begin. Again, we gave Bibles, we gave new Christian materials, and we would go visit them the Saturday following the event. All right, some pros and cons. The biggest pro is you're going to reach more children and their families when you go where they live. That's just hands down the most important thing we do. The cons are not everyone will be happy when you do VBS off-site from your church. And I could talk to you for hours about the number of people who are really upset with me who did not understand that the church is called to fulfill the Great Commission. All right. Here's some things to plan for when you're looking at planning for success. When is your event? You need to figure out the date and then who the event's for. We would do kinder through 6th grade, and then we would have preschool VBS for the kids of the workers back at the church. And then we would do a mandatory meeting for your leadership. We made everybody come. We taught everybody how to share their faith. And we made that way everybody was on the same page. It's kind of like a big pep rally we would have with singing the songs and doing inspirational message to get them fired up. And then we'd send them out to go out Monday. Enrollment procedures, that's one of the things we had. It's very important to help people understand that when we're meeting kids off campus, we want to get clear address and phone numbers so that we can follow up with the kids afterwards. All right. An outreach plan. What we would do, we put together little postcards. We had to go to the apartment first, and that's going to be another lesson we're going to do here, another short video talking about how to get into apartment complexes, boys and girls clubs, mobile home parks, the YMCA, and how you connect with them. And these are some of our promotional pieces. We used this for another church in a different city. But it was Kid Power Camp. It was for kinder through 6th grade. It had the date on it. Had a registration card. The nice thing up here where it says location near you, what we would do is print out about 10,000 cards, and then we would canvas. But what we would do is put a sticker, a postage sticker right here that says at Hillcrest Apartments, and it's going to be meeting in the clubhouse. So it give where they're going to meet at, okay? And that was very helpful for the people that came. All right? Taking attendance records. We would do it at the sites, and we also have an app now that when we did records at the locations, they could do it on their iPad or their cell phone very simply. Work and planning days, there's not very much to be planned or worked out because of the simplicity of what we do. And I'm telling you, folks, you can reach more people spending less time and be twice as effective, almost 3 times as more effective by being out where they live. Family celebration night, you need to determine what you're going to do. And that it could be just a cookout at your church, something simple. Hot dogs are relatively inexpensive if you don't have the money. Cleanup procedure: if we went out to a location, we told everybody that we cleaned up the place where we were better than we found it. That was our cleanup procedure. All right, music. I would choose about 4 songs every year, and I would give it to our preteens and let them come up with the motions. We would videotape it. We would put it on our website, and then we'd put it on DVD that people could learn the motions before we went off into the community. And evangelism, we made a point to train everybody how to share the gospel. And this is important. It takes 90 people today, 90 Christians, to lead one person to Christ, which is unacceptable in the church today. And so I made a point to teach everyone, adults and kids who are out there, how to share their faith. And a lady came up to me, was 45 years old, said, you know, I'm embarrassed to say I'm 45 years old, and this is the first person I've led to Christ. She led a second grader to Christ during our Kid Power camps. All right, meals. This is something that we would do because we did VBS at night. We had simple meals, relatively inexpensive, and then we would charge families $2 a person, $10 max. So that's something real simple you can do, is provide meals for families. All right. Dismissal of preschoolers and children at apartments or wherever you're at. We made it a rule that they were not allowed to be released out on their own. We had to walk them back to their homes, accompanied by at least 2 adults or an adult or a child. Refreshments, again, have people bake cookies and then serve them Kool-Aid or punch or something like that, and it can be very cost effective. All right, first aid. We would load up Band-Aids in a Ziploc bag with non-latex gloves and just tell our leaders for cuts, wash it with water and put a Band-Aid on. That's all you can do. Supplies, there was hardly any supplies, so it was not a big issue. We would we'd put them in totes, and then they would carry them out to the sites every day with the things they needed. Remember, Matthew 28:19-20 says to go ye therefore and make disciples, and that's our calling. And so I want you to know that when you go out, you're going to contact and you're going to touch people just like the Lord would do. We've determined who can volunteer, all right? And the wonderful thing, again, we said 4th through adulthood, and we allowed them to be a part of the ministry and the mission, and they loved every bit of it. So that's something you're going to have to determine. But I promise you, if you get kids out there in the community and allow them to minister, it's going to be a game changer for them forever. In our next video, we're going to talk about finding and securing locations for off-campus VBS.